Hi friends, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Here, not at the 338 Club, but on a bay at C2 Tactical in Scottsdale. Today, a butthurt-inducing truth about being very careful who you watch and making sure that you understand a technique before you decide if it's for you. Mountain Man Medical has comprehensive but compact trauma kits with name brand quality components. They also have discounts available for firearms instructors, teachers, veterans, and others. Please go check them out at get-asp.com/mountainman and thank them for sponsoring today's video. If you're an end user, if you are somebody who watches YouTube videos or goes to other sources on social media to learn techniques for firearm skills, martial arts skills, or otherwise, I want you to make sure that you actually understand the technique, that you know it from somebody reputable, and even that you've trained it live so that you get the nuances of it before you try to use it and decide whether it's right or for you. This is important because whether it's me or another instructor or an end user who, I don't care how big their social media presence is, if they show you something, then you don't understand how the technique is utilized. You don't understand its context. You don't understand the nuances of actually doing it. You haven't done it under instruction so that you actually see the nuances of why it would be valuable. You can mistake that technique, not use it correctly, and either use it incorrectly to your detriment or not use it within its niche or its context and therefore lose the value of it. I see this all the time, whether it's low information people talking about appendix carry who have never appendix carried and have never learned appendix carry from somebody who actually teaches it well and understands it and is recognized to be a competent instructor in it, or whether that's red dots, or whether that is, our pinky pressure, our front to back and side to side technique of gripping the handgun, or a host of other things. This is a universal problem. And so my encouragement to you, bigger first and foremost, is when you want to learn something, is that YouTube can be a supplement and social media can be a supplement, but it can never replace actual in-person training with a competent instructor. It can never replace that. I'm going to give you two examples of that from my own life. I have people who ask me quite a bit about tactics and techniques or martial arts or those things that I haven't studied. If you know me, you've been around the channel, you know that my black belt, I have a second degree black belt in a derivative of Kempo known as Umas. And I have somebody come up and say, hey, John, tell me about your understanding of another art, say Krav Maga or Sistema or Kali. I've taken like 2 Kali seminars, okay? I've taken like 3 classes in Krav Maga. So when somebody says, hey, what is that? I go, my limited understanding, the little exposure that I've had to it, here's my thoughts, but understand, I don't have enough of a frame of reference under a competent instructor to really give you a really significant understanding of its strengths and weaknesses. I get this in the shooting world as well because, every time John Wick puts out a movie, somebody's got to go all center axis relock on me. And I'll tell them, listen, I've never trained under somebody who actually trains center axis relock. I've seen plenty of it beyond John Wick movies. I've seen it in YouTube videos. I have secondhand knowledge of it from people who have trained it and seen its shortcomings and those kinds of things, but I've never actually trained under somebody who actually believes it and actually wants to say it's got value. And so I hesitate to say it does or it doesn't because I've never actually trained it. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to go train every goofy thing that's out there. The Detroit survival training guy teaches all kinds of goofy disarms and believes them and stuff too. I'm not going to go train all that stuff. I've got enough training in my art to kind of, see not so hot from hot at some level of high competence, but most people don't have that. So my big reminder to you, go get some actual training. And yes, that even means here at Active Self-Protection Extra, this is not a standalone resource. It is a training adjunct. And I get it, less than 1% of handgun owners go to a class every year that's not a CCL class, a concealed weapons permit class or something like that. Fewer than 1%. So if any of you actually listen to me and go take a class this year, you put yourself in the top 1% of all firearms owners in America by going and actually training kudos to you. For the rest of us who are just watching and assuming that this is training, recognize this is an adjunct to training. And just like, for instance, I see a lot of people, I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu, and I see a lot of people in jiu-jitsu go and learn techniques online. I think that's great. Once you're to a significant level of competence, you can start to analyze that stuff and see it. But for the most part, you're probably better off to just go hit the mats, learn one technique instead of watching YouTube videos all the time that you don't know the nuances of and can't put into play. So last thing, when you see somebody go, hey, this technique sucks, one of the questions you should ask is, where did you learn that technique? Where have you trained that technique? Have you actually seen it in place? Do you understand it? Are you actually using it appropriately? And are you knowledgeable enough to communicate that to your audience if you see somebody communicating about its strengths and weaknesses online? If they're not, just because they're competent in one area doesn't mean they're competent in another area. And so if you don't ask those questions, you can be led down the wrong path by somebody, whether well-meaning or not. Don't fall prey to this problem, friends. Check your sources. Make sure that when you're learning a technique or when you're looking at a technique, you go, where did you get that technique? Do you understand that technique? Is it an actual useful technique in my context? And are you using it in its correct context? If you ask those questions, I think that you'll be safer online in your learning journey. Hope it helps you.